Head, States and Local Government WWPS flag bearer of IT industry, Amazon Internet Services Private Limited, Mr. Ajay Kaul, to deliver his address on business continuity and digitalization powered by cloud technology.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And um, it's so good to be here today. And thank you, GESIA, for putting this forum together, which is a nice blend of, I would say, the government functionaries, the academia, the industry, and a very diverse set of people to have this discussion today. But before I begin, I would like just to kind of look at these two words, business continuity. We've been kind of looking at this for many a times before, but I think this time the overall meaning of this term itself has changed big time, because so far what we have been looking at, maybe some new initiatives, or it could have been some prices which could have been limited to a particular state or a country by virtue of maybe floods or cyclones or maybe earthquakes. But this time it's completely a different whole world in terms of the way the crisis erupted. And it obviously needs a humongous amount of a change in the way we approach things moving forward. But before I dwell into that, let me take a moment to thank and deeply appreciate all our healthcare heroes for putting their life at risk for the sake of ours, for all our educators who have found very, very new, unique ways of ensuring that the distance education is provided to the students, and lastly but not the least, all the government employees who have ensured that all the critical citizen services are up to the mark without any disruptions. So really thank you everyone for doing such a fabulous job. At Amazon Web Services, we have done quite a few things during these tough times, which was either to provide uninterrupted services, highly scalable or reliable infrastructure, or any kind of work that government expected us to do, be it from the high-end analytics to citizen services to surveillance and all. But if I have to dwell into some of the key areas, where we supported various areas, right from providing help to government hospitals to monitor key parameters of patients, which was very, very crucial at the initial time. Nobody was knowing what's going to happen, how things are changing so fast. Or it is in terms of providing food to people who were not allowed to go out because of the contaminated zones, ensuring that the rations are provided to them. Or if it is in terms of providing help to the police departments by virtue of drone surveillance. In addition to that, we literally took the best help of technology in right from automated health assessments to ML powered diagnosis. There were different ways of analysis that were done in terms of, are there better ways to find out if the person is really impacted or not. And there were various platforms that were created. So the whole essence was, how can you kind of experiment fast? How can you fail fast? And how can you emerge with newer innovations as quickly as possible? That was the time, was literally the essence. So that's where it required a humongous amount of collaboration and a system which could operationalize, get automated, and provide results in the quickest possible time. Not only that, I think there was huge quantum of uninterrupted learning that was provided, and a state of example is state of Delhi itself, where we kind of moved the needle from a handful of students to scaling it almost like to 2 lakh students being covered under distant learning. I mean, this in itself is a huge step of the way we responded to this crisis, which was not known in terms of till what time it's going to last, what repercussions are we going to have, but yet I think we all came together to ensure these uninterrupted services are provided. Now, what does all of these teach us? What are some of the takeaways? And if there is one that I can talk about, I think the thing that came out very, very clearly is the pace at which organizations were adopting technology was far, far slower than advances in technologies. Let me just repeat this line. I think it's very important for all of us to understand this. The pace at which the organizations were adopting technology was far slower than the advances in technology itself. And all of you will agree with me that few years ago, all of us used to really take pride in building bigger and bigger data centers. Be it any customer, enterprise, government, corporate, we used to take pride in talking about plush 10,000 square feet data centers, 15,000 square feet data centers, the state of the art, infrastructure being provided there, and so on and so forth. But I think if you look at it, the pace at which the technology itself is advancing, what is getting invented today is obsolete tomorrow, right? So you may still spend thousands and thousands of rupees on building these data centers, powering them up, electricity, cooling, and so on and so forth. And just beyond a year or so, you would realize that most of the components itself have become obsolete. Or at the same time, you are not able to derive the level of innovation with which the whole plan was supposed to be done. And if I take a look at the government for a while, all of us know that for government, right from the planning of RFPs to closure of RFPs and then the procurement, and by the time the things get implemented, we're talking of a year plus, if not more. And imagine what changes happen in due course of time. So by the time the technology is implemented, it means you're already N-1 with regard to the technology that you've got. And they're supposed to operate this for at least 7 years, if not more. And do you think it's going to get you the kind of innovation, the kind of agility? It's going to be a very, very tough question to answer. But said that, I think it's high time that we start thinking on those areas. We start brainstorming, and I think it's high time to transform the organizations to make it a lot more resilient. And if I have to give you a few snippets on that and look at the first way, how do we do that? The first area that we look at is, the migrating and freeing up resources, the very, very crucial resources that we have, over a period of time catered to. And the first thing that comes within that is the infrastructure cost. And all of us know that the moment we look at building large chunks of infrastructure, it involves a huge capital. It involves a huge physical security. It involves a huge amount of space and power and so on and so forth. But let's do a small comparison. How does the on-prem investment look like compared to the adoption of a cloud service? An on-prem investment that happens is a chunk of capital that gets piled up in the very initial stage. And not only that, as I said, maybe sooner than later you will realize that things are not compatible, things are grown older, maybe within a year or two, and you will start putting in more investments to make it really viable to be able to support. On the contrary, when you look at a cloud-based approach, there are revisions which happen downwards by virtue of optimizations that happen. And at the same time, you're not supposed to over-provision. You're not supposed to have infra which you don't know how much is actually required, because you can actually pay as per the actual need is. And that creates a huge amount of value, for any enterprises today to be able to make, those small investments to begin with and grow over a period of time, scale over a period of time. And we help organizations to optimize on the go, to make things a lot more better on the go and bring down the costings over a period of time. Going back to the second area, which is adopting the modern application practices, all of us have accumulated some level of monolithic approach in the past. And you would agree with me that the kind of crisis that we have seen today, it definitely tells us one thing for sure, that we need to be a lot more agile. We need to be a lot more quick in way our response should be to various business needs, or it may be crisis. So from that standpoint, the monolithic applications will not support those areas anymore. It is time to look at microservices so that we can make the good and the best use of each service for which it is required to be. The third area, which is on the analytics front, I think every aspect, whether it is on the COVID front today, whether it is on different areas to look at forecasting, right from the weather, right from moving from the erstwhile approach to a digitized approach, there is going to be a huge quantum of analytics that needs to be done. Look at it from the government standpoint. The quantum of data that any government would have, for all the citizens, is like in millions. Now, what do we do with that data? What potential do we have with that data is what will get defined by creating those analytics and smart way of looking at things, which will help us to do a lot more value add to the businesses. Security, I think everybody's most crucial element to look at. And just to let you know, at AWS, we look at more than 200 significant compliances, governance, and security in configurations that our services have to offer. So it is absolutely, the global standards and being METI approved. You can be rest assured that all the security aspects are taken care of. Last but not the least, how do we really make organizations to work in a cohesive manner? Adopting cloud is not just an RFP to be released and something to be procured. It's not about that. It's about adopting the overall change of the policy, the way things are utilized. So from that standpoint, we work very, very closely with organizations today to bridge that skill gap. Because a lot of things, when you automate, there will be, people who can definitely provide a higher level of a value. And I remember, a few years ago, when governments were looking at initial stepping stones on adopting computerization, and there was a lot of hue and cry saying, oh no, people are going to lose jobs, this is not the right thing to do, and so on and so forth. But when we look back today, where we have reached at this point of time wouldn't have been possible had we not adapted that level and that quantum of computerization in our departments. You can have plenty of examples to look at, whether it is on the railways front, aviation front, logistics front. We heard Mr. Vishwanathan on the logistics front, the way the technology has played a bigger role there. We heard Sri Shiklaji talking about the way the governments today are looking at IoT-based, adoption in larger areas to help with technology. It is the right time when we need to engage and look at the overhauling of the overall process. And that would be the area that can help us to take giant leaps. And this can happen in two ways. It can happen by looking at building cloud native applications itself, for greenfield, newer areas, which will obviously be highly optimized. Or even if there are approaches to be taken where we have to move from the monolithic architectures to the modern architectures, which are very swift and agile, I think that journey can also be undertaken. So if I can kind of, summarize, the cloud adoption is not a one simple RFP. It's not a one simple buying of a product or a service. It is a journey. It's a journey for the organization, and it has to be understood well. Now, when it comes to AWS, there are areas that we look at very, very keenly. For example, when you're talking of agility, we spoke about it earlier. We heard about the previous speakers talk about it. I think it is the no more the secret sauce, that agility will help us to scale. Agility will help us to not only innovate faster, it will also help us to create solutions for problems that are unforeseen, which may impact us all of a sudden without giving us much time. At the same time, we heard that cash or the capital is extremely important. So how do we kind of ensure that we don't put larger chunks of budgets, our valuable budgets? And I'm hoping that we continue to have budgets, on the lines that were planned in this year and next. But there is definitely going to be an impact. So how do we kind of work on areas where we don't need to put our hard-earned budgets and make it a lot more flexible? Is where it's going to be very importantly looked at. Elasticity, like I said, you don't need to, most of the RFPs, the way it comes out, they plan for 5 years, saying how much will my 5-year plan scale. I need to prepare for that kind of a business plan. I need to buy infrastructure keeping that in mind. But when you look at today adopting cloud services on AWS, you don't have to plan that at all. Whether your business goes up or your business has to be softened for some time, in both the scenarios, the infra can be brought up and down accordingly. So you pay only for the need which is truly there. This all gives you an opportunity to innovate faster. The reason is because at AWS, we have a huge partnerships that we drive with ISVs, with Govt, and with whole lot of software providers, which allow you to scale very fast, and any application that you can think of today is doable. Just to let you know, we have something called as AWS Marketplace, where we have closed about 1,400 plus ISV partners. And they kind of bring a different world altogether, whether it is from healthcare to education to land records to anything and everything that you can think of. They can solve it in the quickest possible time. And as we have seen, the world is one when it comes to some calamities like the current ones. We cannot live in isolation. We have to have best practices that has to be shared. We have to coexist in the world globally. So from that standpoint, we help businesses to scale within the country levels or beyond, and go with hundreds and thousands of servers, for instance, in just a few minutes. Now look at it this way, for any business to acquire infrastructure today, be it on the compute front, on storage front, on network front, security front, load balancers, you name it. The journey of planning to procuring to implementing to actually start taking the benefit is going to be time consuming. And the same thing what we're talking of on AWS, we're talking of in minutes. You heard that right, minutes. And that is the scale we're talking of. Let me give an example of the work that we've been doing with Maharashtra government, where we have this nodal agency Maha Online, which is now called as Maha IT. We kind of working very closely with them, and they in turn obviously support all the departments within the government of Maharashtra. And it gets, these services that we provide get seamlessly collaborated with all the existing citizen services that we have at the national level, be it Aadhaar, be it DigiLockers, be it any of the applications which are there existing today, and they actually coexist in a very nice manner, seamless manner, and we're literally impacting almost 110 million citizens of Maharashtra. Let me talk about one more example, and this is when you have to literally drive a data analytics at a huge scale. Given the kind of size our country is of, given the kind of geography, the languages, and the different data sets that get created across 100 plus cities, we're talking of creating a data source from all these put together, and then looking at making intelligence of how do we create a better standardized approach in minutes. And this is the scale that we're talking of. At the same time, if we're talking of even a particular state, what PMIDC has been able to do across 167 towns and cities on implementing a scalable governance platform, has been hugely appreciated. Now these allow us at a city level, at a panchayat level, at a state level, at a country level, and at multi-country global levels to look at data sets in different forms and shapes. And the reason why we are more prepared to do that is because we look at it in a very holistic manner. At this point of time, we have the highest number of services that we offer across the globe on cloud. Like I said, the largest number of customers and partners and the entire ecosystem of ISVs and software folks on the system. Most secure, I spoke about 200 plus levels of compliances that we have built in various services across the board. Most prone operational expertise, we have like 100 plus gigs per second kind of a network that we enable across our customers to move at a very fast pace. And what that leads to is faster innovation. Like I said earlier, experiment fast, fail fast, succeed fast, and implement quickly. That's the mantra that we're looking at. And this is the power of choice that we provide to our customers today. Irrespective of the customer's domain, whether it is from the government, whether it's from enterprises, large enterprises, corporates, SMBs, corporates, across the board. Irrespective of verticals, be it manufacturing, be it education, be it telecom, and the choice that you get across, the processors to, some applications very heavy on memory-based architecture, you choose it. And I want to make a statement here that if there is any service that you need, which you can't find with us, please let us know. I know it's a very bold statement to make, but I would like to emphasize this once again. If there is any service that you don't find available with us today, please let us know. We'll be more than happy to work on that. The biggest testimony is when you look at where do you stand with respect to the industry, with respect to the scale that you have built over a period of time. And I think the slide itself is self-explanatory. 10th year in a row, this report came in last week, and mind the gap. So all I would say is very high time to look at the way things have moved and gotten us to introspect in the last few months of how should we move ahead. What has taken us so far will not take us ahead. So there definitely needs to be a rethink to be done of, do we need to invest our hard-earned budgets on areas which might get stale just after a few years? Do we need to invest in areas where I don't really care? And I would like to kind of end by giving a very simple example. It might sound simple, but I think it's very powerful. Look at it this way: the kind of the way the electricity comes to our homes, we don't even care where it gets generated. Is it basis thermal? Is it basis coal? Is it basis wind? We don't know. But what we do with electricity is all what we choose. So whether we run refrigerators or TVs or devices or any products, it depends on us. I think with the same balance, if I can say, IT should be coming to your corporations, your departments, your businesses in the same way. You should not bother where it is coming from, how it is getting managed. All you should be worried for is, how can you invent more? How can you create more? How can you respond quickly in the cases of crisis, which are the scale of this one? And how can we deliver more to our customers, to our citizens, to our businesses. So with that, I would like to close. But before I end my session, I would really urge all of you to have a look at our virtual booth. I think that will give you some more ideas at the way we operate, and we will be more than keen to engage further. So do let us know if you would like to talk and take things forward. Absolute pleasure being here this morning, and thank you, GESIA, once again for putting all of us together. Wonderful forum, and I think we should look at such occasions more, irrespective of whether we are able to meet face to face or we do the virtual ones. Thank you so much. Have a great day.